Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us with Tuesdays at 8, our weekly Facebook Live event. And tonight you're going to hear a wonderful, very encouraging story from Dionne Lovestad-Jones about her surprises in transforming spaces at her church. Welcome, Dionne. Thank you for being my guest tonight.
Thanks. It's so good to be here. It's so good to see you and be with you too.
Thank you. Dionne is actually in the room in her church where we're broadcasting from that transformed. So you're going to get to see some before and after pictures, and you're going to hear this wonderful story that she's going to share with us. Before we begin, Dionne, would you like to lead us in prayer?
It would be my honor. And I told Diane it's not always my most comfortable thing to do, but I do think it's an important thing to do. So if you would all pray with me, it would be my pleasure. Dear Father in heaven, thank you. Thank you for transforming spaces and places in our lives where we can focus and be attentive to you and your word and what you have in store for us. And these are physical places, Lord, but places within our lives and certainly within our hearts. Be with us this evening. Show us what you would have us say and share, and allow this time to be precious, to have a little pearl under the right click for each person to take away this evening. Thank you so much for being you so that we can sit at your feet. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you so much, Dionne. Well, let me introduce my special guest tonight. Dionne is actually a employee, correct? Yes, you're an employee. She's a regional ministry facilitator for Lutheran Hour Ministries, and she equips everyday kinds of people to have everyday kinds of spiritual conversations in everyday kinds of settings. She has delivered Lutheran Hour Ministries workshops content to more than 1,000 people in congregations and organizations across the country. She is a certified professional fundraiser and has a background in nonprofit development and the hospitality industry. Dionne recognizes the joy in welcoming others and the giving of ourselves. She likes to hang out with visual faith practitioners in the Colorful Faith studio, that's where she is right now, and has recently spent time learning how to live stream her congregation's worship services, like most churches are doing right now.
Exactly.
She's thankful for the home studio space that has been freed up by her grown sons flying the coop, and blames a British husband on her high affinity for Walker's crisps and digestive biscuits, which are mostly covered in dark chocolate. So, of course, Americans don't call biscuits, we don't call digestive biscuits, we don't call things that they're crackers to us.
They're more like an oatmeal cookie, but they're covered in chocolate. They're really naughty, but so delicious.
So, Dionne, one thing I didn't list is where actually are you? What part of the United States?
Yeah, I'm in Northwest Indiana, a little town called LaPorte. So kind of southern tip of Lake Michigan. We have a little bit of snow on the ground, and I am at St. John's Evangelical Lutheran Church in LaPorte. It's about a 150-year-old church with, those kinds of facilities and buildings, and this is our home.
Awesome. So have you lived there for a long time?
I've been here for about 20 years.
20 years. Okay, so this
time flies.
Yeah, this has been your church for 20 years?
Yeah, I have actually, yeah.
Okay, well, that makes your story really interesting, because if you've been there for 20 years and you just did what you're going to be talking about tonight in 2019, I think you mentioned, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so this will be really interesting because you did something before COVID, then COVID hits, and now where are you? So I'm just going to let you go ahead and share your wonderful story about the surprises in transforming spaces.
I think for us, it happened. We have a little group that's formed at our church called Colorful Faith. And really it was born out of the visual faith movement. I would say, the illustrated faith movement, as many of us know, as Bible journaling became popular. Mm-hmm. And we met in a room at our school building for many months. And it was somewhere between, 6 and 12 of us on a regular basis. So a nice little group of folks who came together, men and women, which was really lovely as well. And as our school really started looking at security protocol and some of those kinds of things, the space wasn't available to us like we had hoped, or had always had the habit of using it. And so it was time to kind of start thinking and looking towards different ways. And one day I just was wandering around this old church building here, and we have one of those spaces that I really think many folks, especially in the Midwest, maybe even the East, can relate to. So one of those kind of old church buildings that used to have a fellowship hall in the basement.
Yes.
And around the edges, there are many classrooms that used to be full of Sunday school children and giggling and worship songs and all of those kinds of things. And it's not anymore. For us, it's kind of a ghost town now because we just don't have children's ministry. We just don't have that vibrancy that we once did. And so in many ways, kind of that older declining church that's looking for new life and new experience, and Colorful Faith, the visual faith practice, really helped us create a little bit of that excitement, something new, something I can get involved in. And so walking around down here one day, I was cleaning up another area and just thought, there's absolutely no reason that this can't be ours. It is ours already, right? It's already ours to use. So let's use it to the glory of God. And for me, that was really the key, that, this space was once dedicated to his glory, for his purpose, and it wasn't being used that way anymore. So I kind of just took the bull by the horns. I asked for a little bit of forgiveness and some permission as well. And our trustees really just said, go to town, make it what you need. And so I salvaged pieces from all over the church and school building. The school was getting rid of some old, these are lab tables from the school. They were getting rid of those. So I just kind of started with paint. And as that process became what it is today, we call it the Colorful Faith Studio, formerly Classroom 11. We've rededicated this to the glory of God, really. And so the surprise came for me that as we talk about visual faith and what it can do, certainly this place is designed for that. But for me, in transforming this space, it became such a beautiful, worshipful experience. And I didn't plan on that, but with every swath of that paint roller, I was able to leave part of myself behind and be part of the space. And really, it was a visual faith experience. And I don't know how else to say it, except think of it in big, broad terms, right? It's what we put on the walls. It's how we behave in this space. But it's also about creating a safe space where we can disciple, where we can teach and train one another to be comfortable at Jesus' feet, and to read the Bible out loud, and to pray out loud, and to take turns being messy with our art and our prayers, because life is bumpy. So we can have that here too. And so that's really what that became. And it was just, it became a joyful experience, a joyful place, and still is. And we're waiting for that time that we can gather again safely and continue to use the space. We've had a few individuals still come and pitter and patter around, which is exactly what it's for. But
awesome. Well, let's look at the pictures. So I'm going to put some of your pictures up.
So a little show and tell is kind of the blank space. It used to be used by another girls group. So it was a little red, white, and blue with stars on it. And kind of just grabbed it. So that was the empty space, the before picture there, a couple windows, you can see its basement. Has its challenges with paint and wetness and some of those kinds of things. So we had to do a little wall prep and scrubbing and some of those kinds of things, but it's okay. Empty. And so as we went, you can see I did a little inspirational shop and found a paint palette at Sherwin-Williams and just grabbed those colors and started walking around with them. I put them in my bag and walked around for a couple of months with them. And and this is what it became. So we've got a couple of gold walls and a couple of that kind of seafoam green color because the space does have light. So yeah, and you can see I started farming chairs from other classrooms and other places.
Right.
So those were all held in queue there.
And
then, I just put up a little party lights because I think it's important to party a little bit when we get together. I found an area rug to reduce some of that echo noise of the old basement classroom. And there we are, we're gathering in the space. So with some task lighting so that we can really get focused on our work. And then the end of season clearance were the galvanized buckets. Those are those picnic buckets for like silverware and things like that.
Wow.
You go outside. So I was able to find those on clearance, and they're great for the colored pencils and tape and scissors and crayons and washi, everything that we use just to kind of be who we are. And you can see we get messy, but that's a core group of our it was all ladies that night, but our core group of our Colorful Faith, Colorful Faith ministry.
That's awesome. And then you said,
well, the little side story here is that's my dad. My mom and dad moved to LaPorte a few years ago, and not long, actually not much before we started transforming this space. And they called this church their home as well because I'm here. And so that's my dad doing a little finishing touch, hanging the whiteboard and the clock. But they helped me in this project. They helped me paint and clean and clear. And I think, again, one of those beautiful surprises with this space was that as part of it, they too claimed it as theirs. You know, they just moved church homes, and this really became their church home as part of that process. And so we've visioned a little bit. My dad is part of a revival of the men's group here at church, a group of, I think it's up to 15 or 20 guys, again, pre-COVID. But, you know, this is inspired enough that they have their sights on another room. So I think we'll have another room transformation before too long, which will be really exciting as well, because it's nice. It's nice to have your own space and leave materials and, you know, just find a place to be when you're together. So.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. We had a couple comments that I wanted to share. So Donna said, I'm so excited about this session because our church is about to do a series on spiritual conversations from the kits that Lutheran Hour Ministry has provided for them. Well, that's wonderful.
That's fantastic. And I think, you know, that's what spaces like this help us with. They help us, you know, as I would say, get comfortable sharing our stories. And, you know, one of the pillars of visual faith, we talk about how do we tell? And so we want to utilize space like this so we can start being comfortable sharing how Jesus showed up in our life and how, you know, we call them the rocks from the Joshua passage, right? That those rocks, those stories of God's faithfulness, which, you know, a rock is easy for me to point, the garland project. You can see my garland is hanging behind me, but we did those. And you know, that's a way that I can hang that in my home or even a space like this. And I can share the stories of God's faithfulness and where he showed up in my life and how he's been present in thick and thin with family events. And so, yes, that's exactly what the Spiritual Conversations Kit is about as well. And, you know, so I think spaces like this really help all of those worlds collide is a good way to say it.
So do you want to read what Donna just said?
Oh, I thank you, Donna. She says, what a beautiful space. I love the simplicity. It leaves a lot of room for messy meditation and creative worship. It also looks calm. And I think that's exactly the intention of it. You know, when we came together, we just wanted a place to be because relationships, we know, are key. You know, we can't tell and share and unless we build that trust with one another, unless we have that space to build trust. And that's all about those beautiful relationships. So when we can create space like that, that's when it really counts. So thank you, Donna.
And then Pat said, I love that you recycled and reused and clearance shopped. I think that watching waste and being good stewards is also God honoring. Plus, you see how creative he is in providing what he's provided for you. And
Totally.
yeah,
It's so true. And, everything from my shower curtains back here, little boho, whatever we might call it. I'm a girl after all, so we have to have some pretty things as well.
right.
But, it's true how we can, use and utilize all those kind of recycled, repurposed materials. It just makes sense.
Well, look what Emily said. I love her comment.
Most churches don't have enough space, but for congregations where ministry focus changes, I love the idea of repurposing. And, Emily, I think you're absolutely right. For us, it is about repurposing, rethinking how ministry looks, how we can behave in the world, how we want to step out, even if we find ourselves being a smaller nucleus of churchgoers than we were previously. And so that's what this is really about. And for us too, it's a place that we can welcome people outside of our walled community. And that was really, really important for us. Part of what we do when we gather is to provide dinner. Typically, we just want no excuses or no reason, no barriers, I should say, right. Not excuses, but, kids are welcome. Visual faith and creative worship is for children and folks of all ages. So we try to embrace the whole.
Right. Yeah. And Connie said, can't we all think about a room in our buildings that could be transformed? Oh, yeah, I can totally think about that.
I even think, we've seen some really cool spaces that almost were formerly closets or janitorial closets that have been used. And it allows us to just think broader, kind of turn the page a little bit. And I think that's a good thing.
Right. And then Valerie said, so awesome. Every time I haul our visual face supplies to one of the churches, I wish we had a space to store and work, but still I'm grateful for the opportunity to meet at church. And I think we're all sharing, forget about COVID for a second. We're just talking about, can we have a space and could we leave things there? And,
Yeah. And that was for me, I was loading the back of my trunk every time and carrying in the bins and boxes. And so now I just, have the bins, they're here, they're shelved. And then I find if I need something from home, I have to run up to church to get it. So
be careful because you'll be like me. I would buy one tape runner, right? And then I would teach it, and I'm like, okay, I need 4 more. So now I have 5 tape runners. So.
Exactly. I went through a process. I was, where is that garland? I wanted to put it up for Thanksgiving. And finally I was like, oh, of course, it's up at the studio.
So Connie said, I often see whole schools that have closed. They are just junk or storage rooms. Wouldn't it be great to reimagine them? Yes. And I love what you shared, Dionne, that if your church is an older church and the makeup of the church has really changed, this could be a way to draw people in a different way and to draw a different segment of society. Younger families might come like, wow, they have these really great things to do. Maybe they've never even heard of all this. So
yeah. And, part of my hope too is because we actually do have a pretty thriving school and a school building that's separate, is that, for certain projects, because again, school is changing too. And so they have to meet in little smaller groups, but that they could even come here to utilize that space and, embrace that, because I also think that this is their space too. Yeah. We want to make sure that it's always church and school, that we're always thinking that as a unified, so yes, everyone's welcome here. And so to have teachers or, tutoring or reading going on here for reading tutors would be, an amazing use of the space.
And if you watched last fall, Angelica was one of my guests, and she works at a school where they gave her a room strictly for visual faith. And the kids can come if they want to, and they just hang out there. So, you never know what might happen to your little colorful face studio.
I know.
Yeah, might come and take it over.
Yeah, we've even talked about that as far as, this was classroom 11, right? So there's 12 or 13 in total down here. There's a lot of space, but we've even talked about a couple of kind of reading rooms or reading hangouts where, a teacher may come and have space that's comfy hangout space with their class, divided in a couple of rooms, but a different kind of way to embrace learning. So yeah, the ideas are starting to flow, which is pretty exciting.
Yes. And Alan said, refocusing a space, but keeping the real focus on Christ, which we all totally agree with.
Totally. And yeah, we've been, totally. Yes, that was part of it. Not age specific. We want it to be intergenerational. And it's exactly what we want our worship communities to look like. We want them to look like and behave like families. We want them to be bold and have, as we would say, kind of in the Lutheran Hour Ministries speak, we want them to have messy prayers and loud tables and open doors. We want that space to just spill out of our homes into our communities. And this should be part of that community space.
Awesome. So Donna said, I turned an unused room into a creative arts room, but we use it so much for kids' classes. It is not very calming, but very creative. You have given me some ideas of how I can simplify the space to merge the two. I would love for the students to also have a place of grace and peace.
I love it.
You need to go back and watch Angelica's, my date with her. Let's see, maybe Connie or somebody can say what the date was. I might be able to find it, because you will really enjoy that video because it was so inspiring. Here we go. It was the 20th of October. Angelica Young was my guest. And she is in Houston, and she's a middle school teacher, and her school gave her permission, same thing, use the room like that they weren't using, to create that space. And they have like real comfy chairs, and the children basically can sign up and come like one day a week, I think, and they can hang out on other days and too. So what an awesome, wonderful.
And Donna, I love, it's exactly what Angelica created there, which our intention is here as well. But when you talk about the place of grace and peace, you'll see it just flows in and through the camera when you watch that. So yeah, more inspiration to come.
It is.
For sure.
Connie said these are unified ministry spaces to reach out into the community, which I totally agree with. And interestingly, if your church is, well, of course, with COVID, it would not happen. But anyway, let's pretend COVID is not here. It's a way to draw people that may not be Lutherans and may not be coming to your church, but to announce that you're just going to have this creative, you have this creative space like for 2 hours a week, and they can come and, and that's such an invitation. Connie does that a lot in Virginia, and draws people in that her neighbors that don't go to her church. They just come, they come to the studio, but they get the same type of a feeling.
Exactly. It's kind of create the drop-in space so we can, work on a project, whatever that might look like. And that's the joy of having kind of that old fellowship space in the middle, is we could put 10 or 12 tables out there and really spread out and have music going. And it would just, it would be a great drop-in kind of gathering, come and go space.
Yeah. For those days in the future when we get to again. Right?
Totally.
So somebody said, looking for paper supplies, think about finding crafters who have a Cricut paper cutting machine. I have one and generate many paper scraps. Well, that's totally a good idea. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
And then Pat reminded us, you're right, Angelica's space was actually a closet. It's a little tiny room. And she did transform a closet into there. Yeah,
I was thinking of it like it was that's I think maybe where I got janitorial closet from. It was something that was a little bigger than just, but it's pretty, yeah.
Right. And Donna said, actually, thanks to Dionne for the info. I feel the kids really need this right now. I would agree with you, because for the children who are actually physically attending a school, what a great opportunity that would be for them to have, as we're saying, a creative space, but that quiet space of peace and grace where they can still explore their faith, try new things, which is what Angelica does also. And it looks like you do too. So, I think of a place that, we can teach and learn and practice those visual faith prayers, how those stained glass prayers work and those secret code prayers. And, that's grace and peace time for kids for sure. And I think that would be really lovely, to be able to do that. Right. Well, one of the things I wanted you to just maybe expand on a little bit, you started to talk about it. We have the 4 pillars of our faith in Visual Faith Ministry. And Dionne started to share about this experience. And what's so amazing is that those 4 pillars, you experience them in all the different things that we do at Visual Faith. So here's a person, Dionne, who created this studio in her church for people to do visual faith types of things. But look at how the 4 pillars have impacted that. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. I think the big overarching place for me is that this is discipling space. Yeah. And it doesn't mean that, I'm not doing it, that this is the Holy Spirit at work, but it's a place where we can be to grow one another, to be disciples, so that we can learn our stories. We talk about remember, trust, and tell too. So, so that as we gather, as much as this is a discipling space to prepare ourselves to go and be disciples, to share the good news of Jesus, that while we're in that space, we're remembering the stories of God's faithfulness and figuring out how to document those for our lives and for our stories, our own faith stories. We're trusting one another because we're building relationships with one another, and that builds that trust, just like we think of a family. And then we're preparing ourselves to tell those stories so that when we can practice in this safe space, right? This safe space that we've created, because even when we're messy, and I'm not a great artist, I'm a stick figure girl. I don't know. Well, I know plenty of you are not, but I am. I know that God looks at every single one of these creations that have come out of this place as just beautiful offerings. And so I think that's a way for us to remember that even in our own art world, whatever that is, we have the ability to tell and share our stories. So, I just see the 4 pillars of visual faith all over this space and kind of what comes into it, but certainly how we leave this space as well, which I think is really the most important part, right?
And I was thinking about how, because of COVID, everybody is so isolated.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I am, and I know most of the people that are always on Tuesdays at 8 talk about the exact same thing. So we're all still really isolated. If you have a church where you're actually physically allowed to attend, that's wonderful for you. But I think about if whoever's watching this, maybe they can't go to their church because their rules are they cannot be there physically. But one of the things Connie has done and that I have done for a very long time is I realized when I first started doing visual faith, like 12, 14 years ago, was that I can't sit in a room and do this by myself. That was not the way God wanted me to do it. He wanted me to share what I was doing, and he wanted me to share all the supplies that I bought, because I didn't have money to buy them, but I wasn't allowed to keep them for myself. I had to share them. So I'm bringing all that up to say that if you have the ability to have a room in your home or space in your home and you haven't set it up, I mean, you can kind of see my studio. That's just one little piece of it on the other side. Anyway, it's a way to do exactly what you just said, to have people come and let's remember what God has done, what God is doing, and what we hope God will do. It's a way to then minister to the people that come in there who maybe have never heard about the different types of prayer practices that we show. They've never seen resources like we have.
For sure.
And the most wonderful thing is, even if you just share some of our resources that you can just color in. So whether they're the prayer calendars, or we have so many resources that you could just sit and color. And when we're sitting by ourselves and we're isolated, why not share that and share it on Facebook? Share a picture of something that you sat and colored, because that's a way to tell your story.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we forget that social media space can be exactly for that too, and you're right. God created us as creators, creative people, to be in relationship with one another. And so, my encouragement is that this space doesn't need to be vacant, even in COVID. Everyone has their bubbles. And so if it's you and your mom, or you and your kids, and you want to come use this space, it can happen. And so I think that's the other thing that we forget, that we don't need, I am blessed because I have the room now in my house, because I kicked my kid out, kind of. At least I sold off his furniture. But, I think, I have that space, but really when you don't, you can come and descend in a place like this. And that's exactly what it's for. You can reserve it for the night. Have your bubble, have your bubble over.
Right.
The Keurig machine is here, so the coffee can still be poured because this is still a good Lutheran building. So we have to have that, and create and still be in that place and space together. And the supplies are here, and you can BYO, bring your own Bibles as well, and your own ballpoints, as they say, and just still utilize the space. So I think even in COVID times, there's ways to utilize this creative place.
Now, we had a really good question from Susan. Just going to put you on the spot now. So Susan says, well, how do you spike interest in your congregants, or how do you welcome them to your studio? Do you share as an open house, or do you do exhibit after services? So what have you done, or how have you kind of,
COVID kind of took us as by surprise. So we've really laid dormant for a little bit, but our intention was to do exactly just that, and to have an open house after worship so that people could wander in and wander down, to do an open house Saturday, so we can have some projects kind of going, have some templated things. We actually talked about doing that for the Garland project, that you could kind of go to stations and pick up some of the supplies and start working on a project. And so that's exactly what we were talking about. And I think when I don't think we'll ever really be back, but when we're a little bit closer to gathering in person more, I think we'll actually rededicate the space in a worshipful way as well. So I think that will be a lovely thing.
Good idea. Well, and the other thing that I want to share, and Connie, I think, is on here, but one of the things that Connie has done during COVID, which is really great, is she has a studio in her home, and it's called Creative Haven. And she has open house days when people could come, of course, not with COVID. But what she does now is she emails all those women that used to come and say, this is a project, and if you want it, let me know. And she puts it all in a baggie and puts it out on her front porch, and they can walk up, and here we go, no touching, keep your distance, social distancing, and pick up the project, and then you can kind of talk about it in that way. So I'm thinking you could actually do the same thing at your church. You could have something, you could put that in your program and say, hey, do you want to stop by and pick up this project? And here's some bags, just come over and pick it up. So that's another way to advertise.
Yeah, one of the things that we worked on early on were the fruit of the Spirit. Mm-hmm. And we actually did that. So even if you couldn't attend, you could pick it up from a little mailbox, your little kit of whatever we used that month, so that you too could be in the Word, that we could be together. And then we used some Facebook group space in that interim time to do that as well. So
yeah. So I think there's a lot of ways, Susan, and if anybody else has any ideas they want to share.
Oh yeah, throw them out there. We'd love to see them.
It would be wonderful to do that. Okay, let's see. Pat says, if your church has a card ministry, a group like this could color prayer cards to send for birthdays or anniversaries and include an invitation to join you. That's perfect. And if Jamie's on here, Jamie does that. She was one of my guests a few weeks ago. And she has a card ministry at her church. So that's another way to draw people in who may say, well, I'm not creative. I blah, blah, blah. Say, just come and color this card. That's all you have to do. Just color. We know you can color. Color. And then they get it. You don't really have to say anymore because they practice it and go, wow, I'm so peaceful. And I get to share that. So they have this whole wonderful experience. And they didn't even, we overcame the I'm not creative. So.
I love that. Yeah. My mom started that even with us, and she started it. We kind of complimented by coloring and writing some notes in them. We have a thrift store that's very active, and we have a beautiful cadre of volunteers that run that thrift store ministry. And so those cards went into the shopping bag. So it was just a great little message of hope that our group worked on.
Well, great. Well, is there any other questions that we have for Dionne? This is your chance to ask them. And while I'm waiting for you all to ask questions or make nice, oh, there's Jamie. Yes, Jamie just replied. Here we go. I'm here.
Oh, cool.
Card. Yay!
That's awesome. Yeah, Valentine's is coming.
Yeah, before we know it, it's going to be here.
Little love notes.
Right. Well, I'm going to put in a plug and a reminder. We are all talking about how COVID has impacted us. And this show tonight is really about something that was started before COVID, but it's still going on with COVID. But because so many people are feeling isolated and feeling lost and feeling alone and just a lot of really negative pain things going on with people, we are putting on our first ever virtual prayer retreat. Will be March 6th. It will be virtual, so it's not a place you can go. It's going to be online. And to find out more about that and to sign up, I'm sure that I can get Emily to put the link on there, please, for the page. And you can go ahead and sign up. We have a variety of options for you. It is totally free. If you want to come, it's all day March 6th. It will start at 8:30 in the morning on March 6th. That's Eastern Standard Time. And it is free for you to watch all of the 8 videos for 24 hours. So Sunday morning at 8:30, then you would not have access to that. So if you have the time on that Saturday, you can sign up for free and you can enjoy. You will just be blown away. You just have to come, everybody. You have to come and join this, because I have the wonderful privilege of helping put together all the videos and the guidebook and resources. And we've got 8 speakers right now. And so many of them are making these extra videos about techniques and things. You are just going to have the most wonderful day of grace and peace and actually learning how to go deeper in your prayer life. And that's what this whole event is going to be about. Emily, thank you very much. She put up the link, so it's in the comments if you want to click on there, and you can go ahead and sign up. So for those people who, if you've never done a virtual retreat, I'm going to tell you right now, I've attended like 8 in the last 6 months. So I think, I can get through that whole day. Well, after I watched 3 videos, there's so many things that I'm writing down and I want to do, and then you have to go to the next one, that we actually offer an upgrade to an all access pass. And that is $36. And what you get—
And that's the one I'm in line for, Diane, because I'm just like you, I get in there, but then I think, I didn't quite grasp that concept, or I want to see that again. That was so cool. And that access pass that's my ticket, because I get to study and restudy, and that's the one.
And really absorb and transform yourself. I mean, so you can transform yourself somewhat in 24 hours, but you have so much in your head. So the all access pass is the first level, and that's $36. And with that, you get access to those videos for an entire year. So we have a new site coming up in the next week and a half. We are going to be launching on Wix. And what it will be is we will actually have a member area. So once you sign up for this, for the Abide Retreat, you will also be able to go in and do a sign up and become a member in the community. And that's where this event will be held. So you will have access to go back in there. That's where all of the handouts and all the extra things that all of our artists are making for us. We're going to be doing 2 Facebook Live events in a special Facebook group, not our regular Facebook group. For those who sign up for the event, even the free people, you get to join a new Facebook group that's strictly for the Abide attendees. We will be having a Friday night live, kind of a launch to kind of get you all excited and kind of help you prepare and how to get ready for the next day. And then at the close on Saturday at 5, we will have a what's next? Because after you go to a retreat with all this, well, now what do I do? So we're all going to be together and be talking about that and giving you some ideas. And then 30 days later, the best thing that's ever happened is that Carolyn Bira, who is our resident theologian, has written 4 Bible studies for the Abide Retreat. You will be able to access them during the retreat. And then a month later, we are going to have 4 live events on Thursday nights. We'll be streaming through StreamYard right here into that group. And we'll be talking about how can you apply those Bible studies. And the reason we gave you 30 days later, as I said to you, you are going to have so much in your head we want you to take the time to absorb some of it and do some of the study. And then when you come into that group, you'll be able to ask your questions. Well, what did that really mean? Well, how does that apply to me? And, that kind of thing. So we have so much planned. We really hope that you will join us at this event. And let's see.
Diane, what I love about that is, for me, knowing that abide, that I'm not alone. I'm not alone during that event. I think, COVID has just, it has emphasized how isolated we are at times, how lonely and alone we are. And I think another way to be in it with others that are praying for you. There's a prayer team that has already begun prayer for our attendees and our presenters. But that even after that time, to be in that Facebook space and to be in study that 30 days later, there's something about still knowing that community is going to gather that just, it's nice. It's nice to know I'm not alone and that we abide together while we're abiding in God's word. And so I just think that's pretty special.
And Connie just made a comment that we do have different packages if a church wants to be involved. So if anybody wants information about that, you can email me, and I know Emily will put up my email for everybody, please. It's DianeMara51@gmail. You can email me quickly, and I'll be happy to share. We have 4 different options for churches to get involved. If they want to have this retreat as their retreat, they don't have to put it together. They can just use ours at their church. We've got some other ways that they can really share. So there's going to be a lot. And I think that you said something. Oh, okay. Here's what I want to make sure everybody knows. So it's called Abide. So do you understand why just doing the free ticket, how are you going to abide? Because you're going to have to, I want to watch the next video, and then I watch the next video. And abide isn't about slowing down and really absorbing and allowing the Holy Spirit to transform us. So the first level all access pass, I'm just going to really tell you, it's not about money from us. It's more about, we want you to get the entire experience and give yourself the opportunity to slow down and really abide. And thank you, Dionne, for saying that it is about a community, because there's going to be all these people. We have over 120 people have already signed up, and we just went live Saturday. So it's very long. We have so many churches contacting me asking about how they can do it. So it's going to be a very large event. So it's going to be really a time where if you've already been involved with Visual Faith with us and you've tried some of these prayer practices, awesome, wonderful. What you're going to find out on that day is there are so many more things. Valerie's going to start off with kind of giving you the overview of what does Visual Faith 101 look like? Like, how do you start this? People that haven't ever started. And then we've got something for everyone. There's some mixed media people. There's devotional journaling. There's just so much for you. And the best part about this is, again, as I said to you, I've done a lot of virtual retreats in the past 4 months. And there's usually about a topic, and then they have like 24 speakers. And each speaker is doing their own thing. Our retreat is totally unique and totally different because we hand chose the speakers. They are our coaches for the walk that they've had with God and their ability to present that and to share and the transformation that has happened for them. So everybody in that day is talking about abiding in different ways. And that's what's going to be really great. Okay, so now I've got a bunch of comments. I got to stop talking for a second. Okay, so Don said, so excited. Thank you so much, Dionne. You've really inspired me to begin transforming. Oh, well, good. Our creative arts learning space. Well, great. Thank you, Donna. We'll be anxious to hear about that. And then
you just posted.
I was thinking a congregation could Zoom from their Visual Faith space with members or as an outreach, teaching some of the practices. Yes, they do have that ability. You have to contact me to be able to make that happen. But yes, we actually do have that ability. And hold on, somebody said something else that I wanted to share. Oh, I missed somebody's comment. Hold on, I'm sorry. And Emily reminded us that the Bible study is after Easter. That's the other reason we gave you the 30 days.
Yeah.
We're going to have the retreat, and then we have Easter, and all that you're probably going to forget, or you're just not going to have time. So we don't.
But what I love about this, can I interject, Diane, is that, when we talk about Easter, many of us use that time, that period before Easter to really ready ourselves. We call that Lent in some of our church traditions. but we talk about how do we prepare our hearts and what do we do. You know, some people give up things for Lent, and I think the Abide retreat and really that ability to focus on portions of how to do something new and focus in a new way our attention during that Lenten period can be really meaningful to try something new that maybe just resonates with you for that study so we can prepare our hearts for the joy of Easter. So
there's my email address. Thank you, Emily. She's my wonderful creative team member. It's DianneMara51@gmail if you want any congregational information. And let's see. Oh, okay. Pat said, if you have friends who are not sure what visual faith means or what it even looks like, this is a great retreat for them to see the many unique practices that are included. And I absolutely agree. As I said, I'm already looking at all the videos. So I'm telling you, you want to be there. You want to watch these phenomenal videos and how they're sharing their hearts and what they're really sharing with you. So it's going to be.
Yeah, that's it for sure. We're going to learn all of these different practices, see beautiful work from practitioners.
Correct.
But more importantly for me is understanding how I can use that practice to share my faith story, yes. How I can learn from what they're showing me to tell others about Jesus. And that to me is that little kind of how we turn the page into what we're learning, because each one, and this is Dionne touched on this, but each one of these practitioners shares their faith story, shares their walk with Jesus through their gifts. And so when they can share that journey, we can better understand how to share our journeys as well. So I really appreciate how they're preparing for that time.
And then I'm going to also say, if you are somebody like Dionne and you have the ability to do this at a school or at your church, to have a creative room, guess what? You really want to come to the retreat because you're going to learn all these things for you personally. But as Dionne just said, this is going to be a way for you to help others tell their story and to remember their story. And so you'll be able to bring that into your life, whether you're a coach or not. If you just do visual faith and people say, what are you doing? What is that? You're just going to learn that. So you definitely want to come to that.
Yeah.
So I think we've talked. I think I've got you hopefully all excited. And Emily has the link there. And Connie's this is probably going to be our parting words tonight. It is always, always this visual faith journey is for the sake of others. We think it's about us, but guess what? It's really for other people. Because when I do this and I do these practices, I'm overflowing with how I want to share what God just revealed to me. And then that other person was like, wow, I didn't even ever think about that. And then they share. So it's just a wonderful, awesome, experience. So Dionne, do you have any parting words of wisdom to anyone who wants to set this up in their church?
To me, jump in. It is to the glory of God. And to me, that's just so important to rededicate some of our space so that we can start thinking about and welcoming others and sharing our gifts so that we can share our stories. And it's a bit of a nutshell, but we always say think outside the box. Well, sometimes it's in the box. Sometimes it's in these crazy concrete walls that we are inspired to do something new. And so do it. I would just say do it. And if I'm close, I'll come and help sling a paint roller because it is beautiful, worshipful time.
And I think that's a good point, because if anybody wants to do it, say something in the Facebook group that I'm going to do this. And if anybody's close enough, they'll probably come and help you, because I would come and help anybody. If they told me to do that at their church, I'd be there in 5 minutes. I'd be bringing all my extra supplies. Say, hey, you can have it and you can do this. So you'd be probably surprised how much support you would really, really get. So, okay, we're going to go over our time tonight. I don't want to abuse the time that you have been so wonderful to share with us, Dionne, and for all the people that have been on tonight. So as always, I will say thank you, Dionne, and to our listeners, join us next week for conversation, encouragement, and definitely inspiration. All of the follow-up conversations are always in our Visual Faith Facebook group. And you can find that if you're a member in Facebook. Just look for Visual Faith Ministry and you will find our group. And we'd love to have you join us. And until next week, have a wonderful evening and a wonderful rest of the week. And don't forget to go sign up for the Abide Prayer Retreat.